Today I'm going to be watching this video. It's called The Do's and Don'ts in Finland. So yeah, learning a little bit more about Finnish culture. You can tell me what you think about these, if you agree with them, if there's any other things that people should do or should not do when they come to Finland. You can tell me in the comments. Let's check out.
Hey everyone, so welcome to my new room that I will be staying in this entire school year. I thought I would just make a little do's and don'ts video about Finland, just from my own experience, and this is just very lighthearted, like don't take it like super seriously. But the first do that I will mention is to take off your shoes when you visit someone's house that lives in Finland. In Finland, in your own home and in others' homes, it is a common custom to take off your outdoor shoes and just wear socks inside. So if you do visit someone in Finland and you go into their house, you'll see that everyone right away takes off their shoes. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then a don't.
Yeah, that one for sure is like important. That's the thing. Like I never actually really considered it, but because I grew up in the UK, then people generally will wear their shoes inside the house if they're not dirty or anything like that. If it's like raining or anything like that, they'll take them off at the door. But if it's like a dry day, people just wear shoes in the house and so on. When I moved to Asia, it's probably the biggest no-no in pretty much every country. If you do that, yeah, like you'll be in for big trouble for sure from whoever's house it is. And now, yeah, it completely makes sense. Even if it's not so dirty, your shoes or your whatever, it's still like bringing in all this stuff from outside. So yeah, I would never wear shoes in any house, no matter where it is. If I go back to the UK, I will take my shoes off no matter whose house it is or whether they insist that I can wear the shoes inside the house. I just can't keep them on anymore.
This is something I've kind of noticed is don't really show up unannounced to friends' houses. This is something that my mom, who is American, she really noticed when she came to Finland, and maybe it's not exactly like this now in America anymore, I'm not sure, but back when she was growing up, you would oftentimes just visit your friends or family members or neighbors. You just go up to their house and like knock on the door and kind of like invite yourself over or chat a little bit, see how things are going. That custom doesn't really exist in Finland. There's not really a tradition of just going up to your neighbor, knocking on their door and like saying, hi, what's up, have time for a chat. Like, even for me, with my friends, I would always call ahead of time, text them ahead of time, just to make sure they're home. And I don't know, it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable if I just like show up unannounced or like uninvited to somebody's house. I don't know. Another do in Finland.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense these days. With having like WhatsApp or having like apps where you can just message someone, it kind of makes sense that you would just let them know you're coming first. Even just in case they're not there, you don't want to waste your time going there. But it's also just to make sure they're not busy or something. But yeah, for sure, even when I was growing up, that was like more common. People would just go to other people's house and chat the door, see if they're there. But yeah, it kind of plays into what I learn about Finnish people, about being a bit more like just keeping themselves to themselves. But I think these days it probably doesn't. I think it's probably the same everywhere, never mind just Finland.
Finland is to be punctual. Like, this is something you really notice in Finnish culture. Everyone is so punctual all the time. All the events always start exactly on the dot when they are meant to start. For example, if there is an event that starts at, say, 4 p.m., you best believe you better be there, seated and ready for whatever the event is exactly by 4 p.m. because it will start the minute the second hand hits 4 o'clock. Like, that is something I really miss about Finland, because here in the UK things tend to be a bit more sloppy about the time. Like, if something starts at 4, things may start, a little bit later, people are still arriving at 4, people are still arriving a bit after 4. It's a bit more casual, the timekeeping, just like in America when I'm there too. It's a bit more casual. But in Finland, if something starts at a certain time, it literally will start exactly at that time. And if it doesn't, that's quite unusual. And they'd always rather be way early than even a minute late. And then this is sort of...
Yeah, that one she says in the UK, but being from the UK, I'm like always extra punctual. Like that's the only thing like in my life. I don't really get like stressed or anxious too much. The only thing is if I'm running late for something, so I try and minimize that as much as I can by being super early for everything. Sometimes if I'm going to someone's house or something, I'll like to be more accurate on the time. I don't want to be over the time or too early, because in case they're not expecting me to be there, they're not prepared, they're not ready for me. Try and time it so I'm just on time. But if it's like events or anything like that, I'll always be there at least 15 minutes early. The earlier the better. I don't mind waiting about, just chilling, as long as I'm not going to be late for something. Like that's, yeah, I can't handle being late for things. I'm never ever late for things, but that's because I'm just over the top when it comes to that. Yeah, like my son has football training. It starts at 5 p.m. I'm always there with him at 4:30. It's like for myself as well not to be late. And also I don't want him to be late, and it's trying to teach him to be punctual, trying to be on time, be early, is having that sort of good attitude towards someone else's time and being respectful for them. So yeah, that one for me is very important as well.
A stereotype of Finnish people, but it does, I think, hold a little grain of truth to it, is that Finnish people don't like to really brag about themselves. And I went to a sort of like marketing lecture at Aalto University in Helsinki. It was the former US ambassador who was holding that lecture. And he was saying he noticed this about like the marketing attitudes and how Finnish brands and people market their products and their companies, is that they are often very humble and don't like sell themselves to their potential. So whereas in America, he said, where he came from, people are like always bragging about themselves, bragging about their products. Like, this is the absolute best product you'll ever buy. This water will change your life. You will never taste water better than this. And like just go on and on about how awesome the product is. Whereas in Finland, it is not like innate to do stuff like that. Wait, there was like a story about somewhere I had heard that they said something, even if someone was like a multi-Olympic champion and you'd have like a few-hour conversation with them, that would not necessarily come up in conversation, and you wouldn't even realize that until much later. I do that as well. Like, a lot of people do tend to call me like more down to earth or like humble, because if I do accomplish something, I don't really bring it up unless it's like necessary for the conversation. And I guess that is a tendency that Finnish people do have, whether that's then in a good or a bad way. Okay, this is a bit of a weird one, but
yeah, I think that's a good thing as well. Like, whether it's being for like a person, I feel like it's nothing worse than hearing someone just talk about themselves and how good they are. Like, for me, I'll definitely stray far away from that sort of person, but also for myself, I would never talk about myself in those sort of terms. Like, and when it comes to things like products and that as well, like, you don't want to like oversell something, because it just sets the expectations very high. So if you're saying, oh, I've got the best product, when someone uses it, it might be good, but you've set the expectations so high, people can only probably be disappointed unless it's excellent. I think having a more humble way of selling things is better, because yeah, you set expectations low and people are impressed and they're like, oh, this is actually better than I thought, and it's like a better impression they get. But yeah, I think that just makes sense. If nothing worse than people brag so much.
Came up with it because it's just, I have a strong memory associated with this. Like, do you use your fork and knife while eating? Obviously, finger food is finger food, but in Finland, you do see a majority of people eating stuff with their fork and knife that in, for example, the US, you would call finger food. So, for example, pizza, I've seen people eat burgers with a fork and knife, like, but especially pizza is something that is very commonly eaten with a fork and knife in Finland. And the fork is held in your left hand and the knife is in your right, and they're very picky about the exact technique that you're meant to hold your fork and knife. I mean, this is like, I'm not saying people are gonna judge you how you like hold your fork and knife, but I'm just, my strong memory that I was talking about was in first grade, when I would eat lunch in the lunch hall, my teacher would always rush over to me, because, you know, I was used to just eating with a fork. I'd hold it in my right hand and kind of just scoop food with my fork, and she would always, like a hawk, she would run over to me and be like, no, you must use your fork. Like, in your left hand and your knife in your right hand. And she would actually like hold my hands and like show the technique and like put food in my mouth like using my hands. It was very bizarre. Oh, and then that reminds me too, I don't know if this is a Finnish thing or if this was just my teacher. So I would hold my pen or pencil, you know, with my ring finger. So I'd like rest it on my ring finger and hold my pen like that. And she thought that was the wrong way to write, and that was not how you were meant to do it. You were meant to hold the pen with your middle finger, so resting like this. And I just found that very uncomfortable. So she probably corrected me like hundreds of times on this, and being the rebel I was, you know, I still would write with my ring finger, so I never actually converted to that, but I don't know if that's a Finnish thing or not. Okay guys, but let me know in the comments below. Just pause this video right here and let me know in the comments, do you use your ring or your middle finger to rest your pencil?
I actually use my middle finger.
I would like to know if that's a Finnish thing to have it on your middle finger, or if it's like a
I've never seen someone use it with the ring finger,
or,
actually.
I don't know, maybe I'm just weird to hold it with my ring finger, I don't know. And then finally, don't interrupt in conversation. So this is also something that, like, particularly my mom, again, who's from America, always would comment about, how in Finland it is quite customary to, when you're having a conversation with someone, you let them finish their entire thought or their entire sentence. Like in the States, like even I notice, like even here too, like when you're having a conversation, you're like talking back and forth, you know, it's common to like interrupt someone halfway through if like you have an idea that's relevant, and you kind of like talk on top of each other and bounce off each other's ideas, and it's kind of like conversations like going on top of each other and stuff like that. But in Finland, it's more like one person talks and then the other person. Like there's not really this lap of people saying stuff on top of each other. You let the other person finish, and only then do you contribute to like whatever they said. So I found that interesting that it is like that. That is also a tendency I have noticed that I have. I let the other person finish what they're saying until I bring my point across. So since sometimes, like in group discussions, I tend to not contribute as much because everyone else is just talking the whole time, and I never like find a space to say something, because you're meant to just like shout out or like speak on top of others, and I kind of just sit there waiting for my turn, which never comes. So yeah, that's something that I've noticed. But yeah, that was just a short list of some do's.
That's so interesting, because that's actually a problem I suffered, and I never really considered it until hearing someone else say that. Because yeah, I've always been brought up by my parents to like let someone finish speaking, then speak, and just have that back and forth, and I feel more comfortable like that as well. I hate like interrupting people. Like if someone's talking, I'll just let them talk, then I'll try and like come back with my part of the conversation afterwards. And like, I mean, if someone interrupts me, I don't really find it so rude. It doesn't bother me too much. I'll just like accept it, whatever. But yeah, for sure, it's definitely like held me back in a way, like in some situations where like if there's other people, conversations will just go on and people interrupt each other, and the conversation will just go on and on and on. But like I don't really feel comfortable to like interrupt someone and try and barge into the conversation type of thing. So yeah, like, I guess I never really thought about it like that. I just kind of like, I don't know, just get on with it. But that makes sense. Tell me if you suffer from that as well. Like, and yeah, I guess going to different countries where interrupting is more common, it can be quite hard to have conversations, and you seem a bit quieter maybe, like but you just don't want to be rude, basically. So yeah, interesting list as well. Pretty cool to find out. Tell me what you think about all those things. Do you think they're fair? Is there any other do's and don'ts in Finland? Thanks.